Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the 18th race of the season for the Soda Guys Cup Series, as we are here at the Tricky Triangle in the Pocono Mountains at Pocono Raceway. Last night we saw the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series drivers here, and now it's the Cup drivers for 80 laps here at this three-corner triangular speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, obviously we got a little bit of information on what to expect here tonight from last night's event, but with the Cup cars, how much different is it going to be for these drivers with the conditions out there?
It's still around the same conditions on track, about 102 degrees on the track temp. But, for all the guys that really were out there racing yesterday, they got a feel of what the track's going to be like. Slick, but still manageable for these people. One thing I'm really worried about, though, is are we going to see our usual lap one accident that takes out a couple of these drivers?
I was watching in practice, a lot of drivers were slipping and sliding off of turn 3, and that's where we saw our first caution on lap 1 last night, as Brendan Burcroft, in his first start here with Stuart Haas Racing, sits on the pole alongside of Ty McWhirter, who was one of those drivers, as you alluded to, that took part in the Grand National Series race last night. They're going to start along in front of Richard Reagan in the 17, and Joseph Piscota, another driver that was in last night's event, rolls off in 4th place, completing your top 5. Vincent Arthur, who was the 3rd driver from the Cup Series that subbed in last night's Grand National event. He'll start alongside of Oscar Jensen. As we look through the rest of the field here, a name that you'll see conspicuously missing is a guy we saw go to victory lane last week, the 2 out of Penske Racing of Boyd Hogan. So a big opportunity here for a bunch of drivers to maybe get their first win on the season.
Boyd Hogan's not here. Also, I don't see Sifford on the board. He's not here as well. Another driver that we're used to seeing up front. So a couple of guys that we're used to seeing and being front runners, not here for today's race.
Another driver that's missing, the 19 of Zach York, the 21 of Justin Carey. A lot of these guys that we're naming are guys that we usually see up inside the top 5 regularly, whatever track we're at. So we'll have to see if maybe someone like Brendan Burcroft, who was fastest for the first half of practice and, of course, fastest here in qualifying, if in his first start he can maybe take a checkered flag. Now, the 4-car has been run this season. It was run back at Charlotte last time that a full-time Cup Series driver was in it. That was when I believe it was Dylan Canova was driving the machine. Logan Helton, a Rapid Fire Pizza Grand National Series driver, he was in the car back, I believe it was at Kansas, and then the 4-car hasn't been run since then. Now we've got a new driver that's taking over here, but I almost wonder if there's any opportunity for him to be able to win his way into the playoffs with so few regular season races left.
A win would help that Ford machine so much to actually be able to have a chance to win his way into the points, but it's going to be a long road for him. But he's got to make sure he finishes out the rest of these races and becomes more consistent. Drivers out here that we got to have our eye on. The car in 3rd place, Richard Reagan Jr. He was the fastest during practice. He didn't get the best qualifying time that he wanted, but still a car to watch out for.
He's only making his 3rd start of the season. A lot of inexperience, if you will, up here at the front of the field. And I'm also looking as well, it's a big split, but 115 points separating Oscar Jensen, who's in the 47 in that final playoff spot, from Vincent Arthur in the 24, who is the last car out of the playoffs. Green flags in the air. Here we go. 80 laps in the Pocono Mountains.
Burcroft's got to be getting a great run, but not really as great as he wanted. It's going to be McWhirter, who's going to be staying on the outside of him. Going to be staying side-by-side action all the way going through turn number 1.
If I remember correctly, in last night's race, Jacob Shorba dropped to the back on purpose. Well, here tonight in the Cup Series race, doing the exact same thing in that number 38 out of Front Row Motorsports. The battle will be for 2nd down the Long Pond straightaway.
Yeah, Jacob Shorba going to be trying something a little bit different here, being in the back. He had those early issues that really put him in a weird spot last night's race. We'll see if it can help him out this time around, but up front, they're all starting to single file out, and that was probably one of the more tamer restarts you're going to be seeing here at Pocono. We're used to seeing cars dive it down low, possibly make it 3-4 wide action, only 2x2 all the way through.
Just wait until we get a late race restart, then we'll see them fan out like that. Is Vincent Arthur going to move into the 5th position right behind him, the 32 of Larry Reed. He's got Oscar Jensen, who is inside. Of course, Reed was up there leading of quite a number of laps last week at Chicagoland and was up in the top 3 most of the day, got hit with a speeding penalty, and ended up actually disconnecting and DNFing from the race early on in that one. Definitely a redemption story here for him, as it looks like he's got another fast hot rod.
Yeah, a car that's drifting back a little bit. It's going to be Ty McWhirter who's going to be dropping back to 4th place, but the furthest back so far is everyone else kind of staying where they qualified. Not any really big moves. Everyone's staying single filed out.
Trouble in the back. Chad Gunisman got up and into the wall, and he's actually down the inside wall now. I think it might have been Ryan Strunk that got the wall off the corner. Gunisman went to the inside to avoid.
No, Gunisman got loose off of turn number 2, threw him into the inside wall. That was all on him. I don't think he got any help there. That was just him getting loose. And, we heard about it last night when we were talking to some of those BJ McLeod guys for the Rapid Fire Pizza Series guys. They were talking about how when you make a setup here, you have to throw away one of these corners and really focus on 2 of the corners. It might have been one of those corners that Gunisman kind of threw away. But really, his race could be done already with that heavy damage from the inside wall.
He's currently still out there, has not brought his number 22 to pit road. I'd also wonder about that 77's right side, because I'm pretty certain I saw him at least get the right front up into the wall off of turn 2, that being Ryan Strunk. But as we move up closer to the front of the field, battle for the lead is on. It's a couple of Mustangs mixing it up. Brendan Burcroft, rear deck lid full of the 17 of Richard Reagan Jr.
Yeah, Reagan Jr. is right on that back bumper and really isn't going anywhere. He's staying right there, trying to find out an opening. Going to be staying behind the Ford machine, waiting to see what mistakes he's going to be making, as some of the cars behind making some brave moves, but overall still staying single filed out. This is kind of one of the weirder Poconos that I've seen at the start. I got to give credit to these guys. Not a caution yet. We're kind of switching off from our pattern that we've been having for the last couple of weeks.
Joseph Piscota, Ty McWhirter, they're 3rd and 4th. They were in last night's event, so you almost wonder if maybe they passed on information to the rest of their Cup Series drivers of, hey, this is what happened last night, the conditions that were going on there. Maybe we might want to take a little bit easy here in these first couple of laps.
Yeah, I mean, it's information to keep and hold on to as you're seeing these guys up in the top 5, and that 9 machine in 96, feeling pretty confident where they're at, but they are losing time on the 2 in front of them that are just staying in side by side now. As you're seeing Richard Jr. thinking about making that pass, not able to do it just yet, but probably will make it complete at the exit of turn 1.
Right up to the left rear quarter panel, trying to pull the 4 back to him and give himself a run into turn 1. Easily gonna make the pass. There is nothing that Burcroft could do to defend the lead. And now it's the 17 out in front. Richard Reagan Jr., only his 3rd start in the season. Matter of fact, you take the top 2, put them together, only this being, if we can include this race, only 4 career starts between the 2 of them.
I mean, that experience level, not there in this league, but I mean, you're seeing that they've got speed to throw down here. You gotta wonder what would have happened if we saw some of the other speedy guys that we're used to seeing up front. If they made today's race, what would have happened? But with them being side by side, it's now brought in the 9 machine. And Piscota able to bring himself up here into 2nd place, and you gotta wonder when he's gonna be able to make a pass here, if he can. As you're seeing everyone in the top 4 staying single filed up. It's from 5th on back when you're seeing some cars right on top of each other.
I think those top 4 might have to be a little bit worried. Fastest car on track right now in terms of picking up positions is that 32 of Larry Reed. He got by Vincent Arthur 2 laps ago, just made the pass for 5th on Oscar Jensen. That 32 car is flying to the front, and he's trying to reel in Ty McWhirter to work his way further up inside the top 5.
Biggest mover all race right now is Ryan Strunk, actually in the 77. We said maybe he had issues. He started 13th. He's up to 9th at the moment. So that 77 car, yes, he might have brushed the wall, but he is still running quick.
Trying to run down the 11 of our points leader, Taylor Butcher Benjamin. Tom Drayling right behind him. And
oh no, Ty Cole!
There.
Ty Cole gets into the wall, also gets James Love a little bit of damage there. And I was just going to say, Ty Cole looks like a car who's having some issues, and we saw that last week. Continuing on this week, Ty Cole hard in the wall and hard contact with the 88 machine.
Saw a lot of right side damage there with the hit at freight number 34 of Ty Cole. Not sure exactly where the contact was for James Love. Looked like it might have been on maybe the right side of his machine as well, maybe around the right front, but he continues on in that 11th position. But Chad Gunisman, Ty Cole, James Love, a lot of drivers having some early issues here at Pocono. The only difference is, though, we've had no spins. They've been able to keep it all straight, which is why we're still under green flag conditions.
Still under green flag conditions and still pushing forward. Right now, some of the closest action that's going on is you're seeing the top four. They're all within a second of one another. But then you go throughout in the middle of the back, you start to see Tom Drailing, who we're used to seeing subbing in for the Rapid Fire guys on Friday nights. He's back in 10th place, catching up to Strong.
Question I wanted to ask you last night, but I thought I would save it here for this evening, about that 96 of Ty McWhirter. Now, we mentioned about Joseph Piscota and Vincent Arthur. They were subbing last night, but they're Chevrolet drivers, and they subbed in Chevrolet teams. But last night, Ty McWhirter drove for Junior Motorsports in a Chevrolet. Today, he's in a Toyota Camry for Gaunt Brothers Racing. Do you think that with it being a different manufacturer, that information he got last night might be a little bit different because there's a manufacturer difference?
I mean, the manufacturers, yes, they look cool. It's more so the bumper and the way that the cars are shaped. That's the main issue, not really how the cars are going to be running themselves. But you never know. I mean, the team efforts that were thrown in, it could have been completely different on the different setups that you're working with, and the information that you got from the different setups could have helped you out for today's race.
Who I'm impressed with here early on, and that is Oscar Jensen, the 47. We mentioned just when we went green, he is the cutoff line driver into the playoffs. Right now, 16th in the formatted playoff points. In his 14 starts so far, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and he's looking really good here today in that JTG Daughtery Racing entry.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident where he's running at the moment, and continuing on to push forward as you're starting to see a pass here for second as Piscota able to get by the Ford machine. A great run on his part, getting by the long pong straight.
But we should mention that in last night's event, the drivers had 4 sets of tires to work with. 4 sets of tires here this evening as well. And Piscota was one of the guys as a fill-in driver last night that went outside the box in terms of pit strategy. It almost worked out for him as well. We saw him being able to hold off first and second place for a couple laps on older tires. You almost wonder if he might try a strategy like that here today, or will he be a little bit more conventional since he now, with his qualifying effort, has the track position he didn't have last night?
Well, I mean, there's going to be 2 different type of strategies we're going to be seeing these drivers pull out. There's going to be the guys that are going to try a 2-stopper and the one that's going to try a 1-stopper. And the 1-stop guys are going to go try to get to the halfway marker of 40 laps and then come in and pit. All the guys that are doing 2-stoppers, they're coming at lap 20, as well as lap 40. And then we'll see if they want to come at lap 60, but most probably not. After lap about 40, most of these guys might be coming in, but there's different types of strategies that we could see with these drivers.
Mentioned earlier that Richard Reagan Jr., our leader right now, was fastest in practice. First half of practice, it was Brendan Burkhoff that was up at the top. Well, he's now faded back to third and is in danger of losing that spot. I almost wonder if maybe he had his car set up for qualifying for the short run speed, and we're starting to now see that speed go away the longer we get into this run, now 10 laps complete.
Yeah, this is something that we talked about with the Rapid Fire guys, a couple weeks ago. It was, how are you trying to set up these cars? It's an open setup league for both series, and for some of the drivers, some of the teams that actually were doing quite well felt like they needed to set up their cars for the long run. So with how green we have been, it seems like if you were setting up for that long run, it is working out right now.
That's for third place there down the Long Pond Straight as McWhirter moves to third, and the fastest car on track now hunting down fourth place. That's Larry Reed. Last time by, he was the only car to run in the 55.4s. Race leader was a 55.555, so 5s all the way across the board there for Reagan Jr. as wow. Larry Reed got a huge run there on the 4 through turn 3, almost got into the back of him. That loses him some momentum.
Yeah, Larry Reed has something hooked up, and I think it's kind of funny that he still doesn't have the numbers on that machine, but that's on my end. I don't know, but Larry Reed, I know he's been having issues with his schemes, but he is not having issues with that car. It is fast, and it is ready to move up to the front. Top 5 so far for Larry Reed, and he started this race in 7th place. He got past 2 cars, and now he's just been trying to catch up to the top 4 after they got the major gap that they had with this early run.
That's not on your end only, it's on my end as well. But we'll go with the storyline that car is so fast, it's peeled the numbers off his Ford as he continues to fight his way up there. We had a side-by-side battle momentarily for the 6th position. It is now dissipated. Oscar Jensen holding off Vincent Arthur. These are the 2 guys right now that are battling points-wise for the final playoff spot. Over 100 point separation, but playoff points-wise, Jensen 16th, Arthur in 17th.
Yeah, they got to be worried, though, that Tim Drayling is coming. He's back in 8th place. He started 12th, one of our biggest movers so far during the race, and he has been showing a lot of speed, and he is someone to watch out for as crossing the line there. He's running about 4 tenths faster than the cars in front of him.
Right behind him, you've got Benjamin in the 11. Remember, he and Chad Gunisman have been kind of duking it out the past couple of weeks for the overall points lead. Well, Benjamin came into this race 41 points ahead of Gunisman, and with Gunisman's early issues here at Pocono, all the way back, last car running in 16th, all that Benjamin needs to do right now is keep that car in one piece, keep it on the racing surface, and he's certainly going to increase that gap when we go into next week's race.
Other battles on track is the battle for 12th place. These guys are getting close. It's tied. It's Kyle Payne as well as James Love. James Love rebounding after getting in contact with Ty Cole and able to make that pass cleanly through turn 3.
Kyle Payne filling in here. He's a driver for Wood Brothers Racing down in the Rapid Fire National Series, and now driving the Wood Brothers car here, filling in for Justin Carey this week. Did not finish well in last night's event as he hit the wall pretty hard after a spin off of turn 3. So far, so good, though. He's kept that car in one piece, right now in 13th place.
Right now, 13th, feeling pretty good. Once again, the battle for 6th. Side-by-side action. Can Jensen hold off Arthur once again as the 24 car going down low into turn number 2.
While these drivers are battling each other for position, awfully close.
Almost
there off of
contact.
you. That was a close one. I don't think there was much daylight between those Camaros, but as they're battling side by side for position, not only are they losing touch with the top 5, but that's allowing, as you said, Tom Drayling, Taylor Butcher Benjamin to reel these two in.
Larry Reed came in so hot that he actually bumped into the back bumper of McWhorter, which now he's losing another position, dropping back to 5th place again. That 32 is screaming fast, but it might be way too fast for all these other cars.
And at this type of a track, you want to be careful of making contact with the front end of your car. You don't want to push that radiator in as, wow, Burcroft got really tight there, it seemed, coming off of that corner, almost up and into the wall.
A little bit of Reed getting loose as well off of that corner. Both those drivers had very opposite issues off of one, and it's one of those corners that, drivers say is one of the easier corners out here, but it's somewhat, all these corners are so different from one another. It's something to watch out for.
And of course, with Larry Reed being as fast as he is, yes, he's picking up positions, but he's also probably using up quite a bit of the tire rubber underneath him, which is why we're maybe seeing him, longer this run goes on, getting a little bit out of shape. Same there for the 4 of Brendan Burcroft. But if we move a little bit further back, another battle that's going on continues to be for that 12th position. James Love looks to driver's left. Here comes the 21 of Kyle Payne. These two side by side trying to see if they can make their way a little bit further towards the top 10. I think there's actually a battle up ahead of them. Jacob Shorba and Ryan Strunk duking it out for 10th place.
Yeah, that's going to be Shorba trying to get by Shrunk, but just not able to get it done just yet, and looks like finally gets by. So, Shorba had those early issues last night, but really feeling like he's got a different car tonight in that 38 machine, able to make the pass and now into the top 10.
Yeah, Shorba there driving for Front Row Motorsports. Want to congratulate him on winning the Scheme of the Week contest here tonight for the Pocono 200 in that number 38 Ford Mustang, right now holding it inside of the top 10. A little bit further towards the front of the field, though. That battle for 3rd place seems to be the closest. The top 2 have been able to check out. McWhorter about 6 tenths over Burcroft, and another 4 tenths back to Larry Reed.
Yeah, it's this battle for 4th is really where things are going, but Larry Reed, it looks like he might have grazed the wall there. He has a fast machine, but I think he's just carrying so much speed into these corners, and he's trying to get off the exits. He's just losing so much time now and damaging that car to where it's not running as fast as it once was.
It's looking like, according to telemetry, Oscar Jensen, Vincent Arthur, Tom Drayling, they are reeling in that 32 machine as well. So he could be in trouble of maybe falling not only outside the top 5, but back in the middle portion of the top 10, if indeed these Camaros are able to reel him in. So apparently the handling has gone away very quickly on his number 32.
Tom Drayling, really the car that I'm watching out for. You've got Arthur getting on the back bumper of Jensen, but once these guys get side by side, it's going to pull that 42 closer and closer to them. They got to be careful. That Tom Drayling doesn't come in and just pass both of them, moving himself up to 6th.
He really closed in there through turn 1. Was about maybe 8 car lengths off the back bumper of Vincent Arthur, has now closed it down to 6, maybe 5.5 here down the Long Pond straightaway. We mentioned about all those drivers that took part in last night's event. They ran 70 laps in that one, nearly the same distance as we're running tonight. Add 10 laps for 80 for this evening's event. And you mentioned about Tom Drayling not in last night's race. Normally a guy we see subbing over with the Joe Gibbs Racing organization in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, but doesn't look like Pocono's giving him any problems right now. That car is pretty fast, and actually, as I'm looking at the telemetry, he actually just ran the fastest lap of anybody up inside the top 10 that last time by.
Yeah, last time by, he is really cruising and feeling good. Chad Guzman is going to be coming into the pits, getting service done, and he's also going to be trying to fix up that damage. It's putting himself 1 lap down because of him coming into the pits now, but I think it's the best time for him to come into the pits. All these other drivers got to be worrying about when they'll be coming in, because I know some of these drivers, their focus is on the halfway marker.
Yeah, some drivers on the halfway mark, but you mentioned about some drivers maybe coming in with the 2-stop strategy. So where would you pinpoint as the places where you want to make those pit stops if we do manage to run these full 80 laps clean and green rather?
Lap 30 and lap 60 are probably the markers that these guys are going to do 2-stoppers are thinking about. So around lap 30 to 40 is probably when that window is going to open up, but it looks like Larry Reed finally got caught, and that damage has finally gotten into that 32 machine, and it's costing him greatly, as now this battle that was for 6th place is now for 5th, and you got 4 cars all battling for it.
Jensen makes the pass, Arthur makes the pass, here comes Tom Drayling. So this is going to drop Larry Reed from 5th all the way back to 8th if Drayling can complete the pass. Up ahead of them, though, they've been nose to tail last couple of laps between Ty McWhirter and Brendan Burcroft. Burcroft, who we saw kind of fading there, looked like maybe the tires were going away. He's been able to keep the 96 right there in front of him and trying to make a move to get back up into the podium.
Yeah, it looked like you used up a lot of that stuff for the 4 machine earlier on. Decided, hey, I'm going to back off, try to save as much as I can. Maybe the other guys will use up their stuff. It might equal out, or I'll have the better tires, and it's looking like it has worked out for the 4 machine right on the back bumper of the 96 of Ty McWhirter. We'll see if Ty is able to stay in front of the 4 machine, but right now that 4 machine is looking quick. I've been looking at the telemetry and some of the lap times these guys have been running. Our leader still holding strong with the pace that he is running. Right now, he's running a 56.5. Everyone else is running a 56.9 or a 57.
And as this battle for 3rd place continues here between the Toyota of McWhirter, the Ford of Burcroft, you mentioned about the damage sustained by Chad Gunisman. Well, Gunisman, he was on pit road for about 2 laps trying to get damage repaired. Went over 2 minutes of repair time. He has actually had his crew push his car behind the wall. So about a quarter of the way through this race, and our first retiree, the guy that came into this race 2nd in the point standings.
Gunsman was really looking for a better day, and it looks like the struggles continue, and the woes just continue on for the 22 machine.
He was the only Penske-related entry in today's field. We mentioned Boyd Hogan not in tonight's race. I mean, if you want to count an affiliate with the 21 team out of Wood Brothers, I guess you could, but in terms of true Penske cars, he was the only one here tonight that was going to give Penske a chance at a trip to victory lane. This battle for 3rd will not go away, but if you remember last night, Sam, we ended up seeing this quite a bit, where drivers would run about a car length apart from each other, but they said it was so difficult to pass.
Yeah, just the dirty air is making your car push, or it doesn't give you enough speed to really get by someone. We saw earlier on with those fresher tires, you were able to put your car in different positions to make some passes, but we've been out there for 22 laps. After about 6 laps, these tires are rough to start to move around and make any passes, and due to the fact that we're 22 laps in, a lot of these drivers aren't going to be able to make as many aggressive moves as they want. They're kind of stuck where they're at. Just try to get as close as you can with the car in front of you.
Richard Reagan Jr. started this event, I believe, from the 3rd position, out in front, leading this by 3.5 seconds over Joseph Piscota. Now, we mentioned that this is only his 3rd start of the season, but a team that's kind of seemed to come on here in the last couple of weeks is Roush Fenway Racing. Last week, we saw his teammate Dustin Hall lead quite a number of laps at Chicagoland and finish in the 2nd position. So, looks like this team's kind of got it together, at least right now.
Yeah, trying to do something different and side-by-side action here for 5th place. And once again, same spot. Long pawn into turn number 2, but can the 24 finally get it done? It looks like he does, gets a little bit loose, and here comes Tom Draling and Larry Reed.
Raylene gonna try and close in here. He's got a car that is faster than the two ahead of him right now by about 2/10 these last couple of laps. So if he can get up to Oscar Jensen and Vincent Arthur, I kind of get the feeling there won't be much of a fight they can put up against him. And I'm almost looking at Tom Draling. You know, we look at him in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. We see him be one of the first drivers to hit pit road. Sometimes he plays that strategy here in the Soda Guys Cup Series as well. So are we looking at him to maybe be one of the guys to try and go for the two-stop strategy, do you think?
The two-stop strategy is something that we've been seeing a lot before the old tire model that these guys are running now. And it was just because the tires would drop off so much. And at the moment, I mean, looking at the telemetry of the best laps that these drivers have ran to their last lap that they ran, there's a 3-second difference. So if you come into the pits, yes, you could gain a lot of time by short pitting or doing a two-stopper, but is it really worth it in the end when you're seeing all these other guys and how much time they're losing? It could be. I think the two-stopper might be a strategy that we could see some cars in the back of the pack try to do, as they're seeing Jensen now being pressured by Tom Draling.
This is a thing that we also have to keep an eye on here as well that the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series drivers dealt with last night, and that's the track's ever-changing conditions. We saw the track in direct sunlight early. It then had cloud cover. I think we got down as low as 95 degrees for the track temperature and as high as about 124 for track temperature. So, you know, we are running at about the same amount of the same timeline here as far as time of day for these drivers. They may have to deal with that as well in terms of their adjustments when they decide to make either their one pit stop or their two pit stops.
Yeah, well, if we see the same weather pattern, the cloud cover came in around lap 35 as, Jensen and Draling got really close on the exit there of 2, now going down the short chute. It's one of those things of the temperature is something that's going to change throughout the field, but if the cloud cover really comes over, it drops that temperature drastically in about a lap or 2 with how big this track is and how the weather just comes in and out. It's something that these drivers will also have their eyes on.
Draling completes the pass for 6th. Oscar Jensen right now is probably thinking, what have I done to deserve being on the outside line in turn 2 twice? Once it was almost contact between himself and Vincent Arthur. That time by almost contact between himself and Tom Draling as he now drops back to 7th place, and Larry Reed got a front row seat of that almost near contact out of turn 2. We drop back a little bit further though, some drivers that are still running but we haven't really heard much from. The 20 of Chris Hansen, all the way back here in 15th place. He is the last car running on the lead lap. Now, we've seen him use the strategy of running towards the back, but right now this seems like it's way too far back for any kind of strategy to work.
Yeah, he's kind of waiting for caution to come out to put himself back out here. He also is just not running as fast as everyone else is on track. His pace has just been off ever since qualifying and even during practice. So this 20 machine, he's kind of out here running laps, logging laps, seeing if anyone else has issues for him to take those positions.
He comes into this race 15th of the 16 playoff drivers.
Coming in, pit stops. It's going to be the 24 machine coming in now.
So coming around that target lap you were talking about, around lap 30, he comes to pit road here at the completion of lap 26 going on to 27 to the attention of his crew. And now we're going to get to see the difference between a driver on fresh tires as opposed to a driver out there for about 30 laps. Ryan Strunk also on pit road in the 77.
Yeah, just looking at the different pace that these drivers have been running. Right now, our leader is running about 3 seconds off of his best lap time. He's able to run that best lap time for about 2 to 3 laps, and then the tires start to degrade and fade off. So that's something to watch out for with these drivers is if our leaders don't come in for at least 10 laps, that is a huge gap that we will see this 24 machine get. But he's also going to lose a lot of time when we see the swap of whenever we see someone come into the pits. So it's going to be interesting times to see, will the 24 car have the lead after the run that after this green flag pit stops run gets cycled through.
Right now, coming to pit road, I would highly doubt the fuel window is open to make it the rest of the way. For Vincent Arthur and Ryan Strunk, especially Arthur being the furthest up of the drivers that pitted there on that lap, I think it really comes down to interval, managing the interval. He's got to close up the interval between himself and Richard Reagan before Reagan comes to pit road. And then he also has to increase an interval between himself and the 17 for when he eventually makes that final pit stop.
Yeah, he's going to have such a big enough gap to where when he pits, he still has a chance to come back. Because Richard Reagan, if he stays out, does the one stopper, his goal is to get to lap 40. Those tires have already dropped off so much just after 20 laps. And after 20 laps, 20 to 30 laps, we'll be seeing some drivers coming into the pits and making these stops now. But the 24 car and Strunk both making some bold moves by coming in this early.
I'll have to keep an eye on him, see how long it will take for him to catch drivers maybe at the tail end of the field. Right now, he is still on the lead lap, currently about 6 seconds behind Chris Hansen. Ryan Strunk, on the other hand, lost a lap on pit road, so he would have to either race his way back onto the lead lap the hard way or hope for a caution to get the free pass. And we nearly had a wreck there off of turn 2 between this battle for third of Burcroft and McWhirter.
Yeah, these guys are racing really hard on one another and keeping it close. And then he also can fade back to fifth, and these guys all still on top of one another with Larry Reed and Strunk behind them on those fresher tires, trying to get by all of our lead lap cars to get himself possibly on the lead lap. Right now, I think I heard over the radio that James Love is coming in this lap, so the 88 machine already slow, pulling off and coming in.
Strunk had to actually go down to the apron there with his two left sides to kind of say to Tom Draylen, hey, I'm here, I've got fresher tires, let me by. And it looks like Draylen's going to be actually able to hold him off for the moment there.
For the moment, Strunk's kind of stuck, and this is hurting him a ton by being stuck behind the lead lap cars and the cars with older tires. As Draylen gets a little loose off that corner.
Now Strunk has to get himself up past these lead lap cars to get himself back on the lead lap. If we drop back to Vincent Arthur, there he is, closing on Chris Hansen. This is a pass for 12th. As you can see, his teammate, James Love, as you said, he's now on pit road, making his pit stop here at the completion of lap 30, right directly on your target lap there, Sam.
Yeah, these drivers are now from this point to lap 40 to 45. We'll start to see drivers coming into the pits. It's all the different strategies that the cars are thinking. If you're going to be coming in from about 35 to 40, that is when you're doing the one stopper. Anything before lap 36 or so, you're going to be seeing drivers doing a two stop run here. So that is something to watch out for. 80 laps really changes the factor on these drivers. I mean, last night it was 70 laps. It was a one stop race. This time with 80 laps, it gives you the opportunity of making a two-stop race, and it makes it a lot more interesting for us as viewers as well, just to broadcast all the different strategies.
And Pocono is actually tied for the second longest track on the NASCAR circuit, 2.5 miles, along with Daytona. Talladega, of course, the biggest track. So, it's a huge track, which kind of makes you wonder, well, how is a driver able to fall off the lead lap here with green flag pit stops like Ryan Strunk and James Love? But with the fact that the field just got so spread out there in those first 25 laps, if you're running anywhere from about 25 to 30 seconds behind the race leader, more than likely that race leader is going to lap you by the time you complete your pit stop.
I mean, also you got your leader who's just cruising around here, going about 150 at the minimum that he's running, if not faster than that. And then you got this huge front stretch that you have to go through pit lane that is so long, and you're only going about 50 miles per hour during that stretch. So you're losing time on pit road. That is so much time that just one lap around here is about 56 seconds, where the leaders are right now, to the 41 to 42 seconds that they are on pit road.
Boy, from third place on back, we've got a 5-car train, and Brendan Burcroft is the engine. McWhirter, Drayling, Jensen, and Reed in this group. Nearly had some contact through 3 as Drayling was right up on the back bumper of McWhirter. This is going to be interesting to watch because we haven't had a caution yet today, but if we get our first one, it might be in this vicinity of the field.
Honestly, they are right on top of one another, and it's really the cars back here for 4th and 5th that are scaring me the most. That battle for 5th is what's more nerve-wracking. I mean, for 3rd and 4th, where you've got Burkhardt as well as McWhirter, these guys have been running around each other all race long, so they kind of know each other's tendencies. But it's from 5th to 7th, where you've got Drayling, Jensen, and Reed. They have been, yes, they've been close to one another, but they haven't been this close.
We've also got James Love back there, a lap down on fresh tires. If these guys start getting side by side with each other, where's the 88 going to go? Drayling may have gotten the grass there, and here comes Jensen, 3 wide to the apron, and Drayling is going to spin.
Drayling is going to bring out the caution here, not hitting any walls, but wow, were they close.
Yes, they were. 3 wide through turn 3. Oh, and Drayling tried to refire the car up, wheel spin off the corner, and makes contact now with the right front of his Chevrolet.
Tried to get going, and it just got loose on him.
He was going to dodge a bullet there with damage to that car, but now that hit to the right front may very well be a little bit detrimental to his straightaway speed. And I can tell you right now, the guy that did not want to see that caution may have been Vincent Arthur, because the strategy he was trying to work out, well, yes, he's still in the lead lap, but he was running up and around the 4th, 5th position before he came to pit road. Now he's all the way back in 11th.
Yeah, he's going to have to work his way through that traffic. That also doesn't help Ryan Strunk or James Love, these guys that pitted and kind of were on the same strategy as Arthur. And we knew that there was going to be that caution coming out. It was just building up. It's kind of like what we were seeing last night, where cars are just close to one another, and you know that someone, yes, they are great racers out here, but someone's going to slip up at some point. And right there, with I think with Tom Drayling getting close to the grass, kind of freaked everyone else out, and getting loose did not help either.
Also lost him momentum, and that was what allowed Oscar Jensen to look to the inside. And I'm not certain. We'll have to look from the chopper cam or maybe the blimp camera here. I'm not certain there was any contact between Jensen and Drayling that spun him around.
No, he got completely loose on his part. That was him getting completely loose. Yeah, he got close to the grass, kind of fidgeted a little bit, and then his car just took off under him. So it's just one of those things that he would have been fine. Yes, he had a little bit of contact with other drivers, but with him hitting the wall after the accident was out, that's the main thing that's going to hurt Tom Drayling a lot. That's going to put him in a kind of a hole to where he was looking like a dark horse to make a push for a top 5 finish. Now he might be thinking, I just need to get a top 10 out of this point.
Well, that blimp cam there kind of almost looked like there may have been either a little net code or some contact, courtesy of the 47 of Oscar Jensen, at least from that camera angle. But one thing that we got to look at now is, with this caution coming out, these drivers are going to be coming to pit road, the completion of lap 35 with 45 laps to go. You talked about them splitting the race in half, which would have been 40 laps apiece. 45 laps to go. Pocono's been known to be one of those type of fuel strategy races. If we go green to the end, is there anyone's going to try and stretch it those 45 laps?
It's gonna be close. You got to be clutching. You got to be saving immediately. Once you get off of pit road, you got to start saving. And it's one of those, it's so close, but it could be just a little bit too far for these drivers. I think if you're really thinking about making it all the way to the end from here, you got to be pitting on the next lap. Yes, fill it up, and then come in once you come back around to do a splash, get back out there. You might be running in the back, but you know for sure that you've got a better shot that time around, but you already have to start saving now, driving around the track.
Richard Reagan Jr. wins the battle off pit road over Joseph Piscota. Looked like it might have been Burcroft that got the 3rd position, barely over Ty McWhirter. And Taylor Butcher Benjamin going to complete the top 5. And to your point, we'll keep an eye on these guys here under pacing, see if anyone decides to duck to pit road here and top off the fuel tank. I think we're going to have at least one more caution lap, maybe 2. And if there's 2, then I think that's when you'll definitely see a lot of drivers maybe duck to pit lane. But you know, the thing that I'm trying to remember from last night is a lot of our incidents took place on restarts. So we cannot say for certain we've seen our last caution here today either.
No, I mean, well, on that first restart, when we took the green for this race, they were really taking it easy. They were not trying to do anything silly to get themselves in trouble. And we know if you're part of a wreck at the first lap, you're usually getting disqualified. So I would imagine that a lot of these guys were like, I don't want to get disqualified in any fashion here. I just want to keep running. So with a clean start that we had at the start, we might have a messy one here as we're getting closer and closer to the halfway marker. A couple of the cars that were running up there trying to challenge for that top 5, top 4 position had to stay in to get some damage repaired. That's going to be Jensen, who was in there for almost a minute and a half. You also had Strunk that was in there for a bit. Ty Cole Larry Reed was in there for almost a minute, as well as Tom Drayling almost in there for a whole minute. But Chris Hansen, he just went in the pits now, I believe. That 21 feeling good. Tim Drayling coming back into the pits to top off and get repairs done.
I don't think Hansen has any damage, so this would be a regularly scheduled top the fuel tank off, I believe, for him. Yep, only about 5 seconds in his pit stall and down and away. Draylen coming back to the attention of his crew. Ryan Strunk, who was just on pit road, was the recipient of the free pass with this caution, and the 88 rather, of James Love is taking the wave around. He's been out there for 5 laps on his set of tires, so he will be at a little bit of a deficit to these drivers, but at least be back on the lead lap after both he and Strunk lost laps due to green flag pit stops. And we mentioned when the caution came out that Vincent Arthur was all the way back in the 12th position. Well, after pit stops, he's been able to work his way at least up 3 spots to his advantage. Now going to be restarting up there, actually make that 4 spots, as he'll be restarting in the 7th position here. But it's going to be Richard Reagan Jr. and Joseph Piscota, the front row. Reagan Jr. put a clinic on them in the first 25 to 30 laps. We'll see what he's able to do here when we go back green.
Yeah, Ty Cole, he came in the pits, got a little bit of a splash. So the cars that got some splashes, it's going to be Hansen as well as Tom Drayling and Ty Cole. Those are the drivers that are really going to be trying to save their fuel and make it to the end here without making another stop. Everyone else, they got to make sure they got enough fuel, but it's going to be close for them. Jensen hit with an EOL. He'll be starting all the way in the back on this restart.
So those guys that came to pit road, topped off the fuel tank, are planning on this running green all the way to the end. We'll see if that's going to be the case. We had an overtime caution in last night's race. As the green flag back in the air, we're closing in on halfway here at Pocono.
And you're seeing Mick Witter is going to be pushing that 9 machine, but everyone's kind of scattered out. That's kind of the messy restart that we're used to seeing as these drivers all now going into turn number 1 with Richard Reagan Jr. feeling comfortable with almost a half a second gap between himself and the 9.
Jacob Sharba way up the track there out of turn 1 as Vincent Arthur's to his inside. Sharba almost brushed the wall there off the first corner, as there's Butcher Benjamin right behind there as well. Right now, top 4 single file, though, with Reagan Jr., Piscota, Burcroft, and McWhirter. And whoa, Vincent Arthur looked a little loose there off of 2.
A little loose, and 2 has been where we've been seeing a lot of cars getting a little bit loose and having some issues. So usually it's off of 1 where you start to see cars getting loose and having issues, but it's all been around that turn number 2. That tunnel turn has just been one of those issues for these guys.
Vincent Arthur, you see going down to the inside. I think he might have been trying to IndyCar it there, cut the draft, and not allow Jacob Sharp to get a run on him. We saw almost a near incident off of turn 3 there as Larry Reed makes the pass on Taylor Butcher Benjamin, but he was fighting a tight condition off corner exit as he almost pushed up into the 11 car coming towards the front straightaway.
I got to give credit to the 9 machine. He is not letting that 17 go, but we were seeing this earlier on that last green flag run. They were close to the leader for the first about 3 to 4 laps, and then the gap started to extend, and that 17 car never looked back.
We know that Brendan Burcroft has a car that's really good on the short run, led the first lap of this race, starting from the pole and stayed up in the top 3. Then we started to see him fade back, so maybe more of a challenge for Piscota behind rather than his opportunity to be able to get up there and try and wrestle the lead away from Reagan Jr.
Well, a car that we were saying, it might have had some issues with coming in the pits and then with that caution coming out. Vincent Arthur already up to 5th place. What a great run for him so far.
Absolutely. That Chevrolet currently up in the top 5, and I believe that's the first time he's been in the top 5 here today when he made his pit stop under green flag conditions about 20 laps ago. He was running in the 6th position, so highest that he has run all day, trying to reel in these top 4. And he was a guy very much like Larry Reed we saw being able to pick his way through the field. So now that he's been able to put himself into a little bit of a safe spot right now, nobody really behind, nobody really in front, a little bit of a gap, we'll be able to see what that car's like on the long run if he has anything for these top 4.
So just got reports from the 20 machine. He is saving fuel. He's all the way back in 14th. He is about 8 seconds away from our leader. If he tries to continuously save, he might be too far back to even try to think about beating out our leaders here. So that's just something to throw out for the 20 machine.
because these guys up here, even though they may be pushing it right now, as the run goes on and we get closer into this race, then they might try saving, and it would all be about, how much has Hansen been able to save? Can he close up the gap on these guys? So, yeah, definitely you have to manage the gap when you're saving fuel. And another thing, too, is with these long straightaways, the draft comes into play. I would think that would put this 17 of Reagan Jr. at a bit of a disadvantage. Now, yes, this is not a super speedway like Daytona or Talladega, but it still follows the same drafting principle where the car out in front is cutting the wind, creating the draft for the cars behind, thus using up more fuel.
Oh, it completely. It's the same effect. You're saving fuel by being behind them. And I really like where Ty Cole is at. Yes, he is not completely on the back bumper of these guys, but he's just getting a lick of the draft that's helping him save just a little bit of fuel here and there. He's back in 11th place. He's only about 5 seconds off of our leader at the moment. If this thing goes green, I think Ty Cole is someone to watch out for. He might have had issues earlier on in this race, but right now, set up in a great spot.
Talk about the 20 in fuel conservation mode right now, and the only other driver that's down around his lap times, or two drivers actually, James Love in the 88, Kyle Payne in the 21. The only problem for James Love, however, is he was a lap down when the caution came out, took the wave around, so he'd have to save an extra 5 laps as opposed to the 21 and the 20.
Yeah, he's actually 6 laps off of everyone else, so he's in a very difficult position. He's going to have to pit at some point. I think, honestly, due to the fact that he's got some damage that he had to get repaired, that 88 machine might not be feeling too comfortable.
Battle for the lead is on. Joseph Piscota got a great run down the front straightaway, snaked to the inside of Reagan Jr. They're side by side off of turn 1. They'll take this down the Long Pond Straight, and Burcroft trying to see if he wants to maybe take this 3 wide. McWhirter right there as well, trying to figure out where they're going to go down here into the tunnel turn.
Dude, during that straight, no one was following the 17 car. They were all following the 9 machine, trying to really not help the leader at all. But as they all get back in line during the short straight, going straight into turn number 3, they've got to be careful here not to overrun this corner. With them being this close, it's kind of giving flashbacks to that last caution that we just had.
Absolutely, it's exactly what I was thinking too. When we saw Drayling go around, it was 5 cars all nose to tail. That's what we've got right now, except the situation is that's 1st through 5th. You got Vincent Arthur that's caught this top 4 as well.
Vincent Arthur, someone to really watch out for. Yes, that initial strategy didn't work out, but the caution came out early enough, and also everyone had to pit, that he was to make some moves, and with everyone trying different strategies, that 24 car in 5th place on the back bumpers of this lead pack. Could make a move here, but everyone else kind of just staying steady, not making any bold moves just yet, waiting for a mistake to be made with the car in front of them.
You mentioned about Chris Hansen saving fuel. His last couple of laps have been somewhere around the 55.7 mark. These guys up at the front, though, they're running anywhere from 55.1s to 55.4s, and so there's no way these guys can be saving. They have to probably be planning on either coming to pit road again here before the conclusion of this race, or having a caution come out to save them, or running out of fuel trying.
If they are trying not to save, they got to put a gap on. That's why they're running as hard as they can. They got to put a gap on everyone else that they're around. And due to the fact that them pushing so hard, it's going to enable them to really figure out, hey, we are all so close. Who's going to short pit? Who's going to not short pit? Who's going to stay on sequence? It's really that type of chess game. It's going to be interesting to see once this thing plays out, because I do not see our leader being able to make it all the way to the end due to him not being able to really save anything or conserve as much as everyone else behind him.
Absolutely agree. As now Piscota looks to the inside here yet again, going into turn 2, not going to be able to make the move. And I noticed the 24, Vincent Arthur, back off from this top 4 just a little bit. You think since he's the last car in this lead pack getting that tow, maybe he might be saving a little bit of fuel.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the back of this group, you saw what happened on that last caution. You saw how close everyone was running. Might as well be this far back, still getting the draft, saving fuel, and also kind of out of the danger zone if there is a caution between these 4 cars.
You and I, we've done, I think now, 4 broadcasts, including this one at Pocono Raceway. Tires have really been the game changer at these type of races, but Pocono's known for fuel strategy races, and it may be playing out to be one of those here tonight, as we're going to have 35 laps to go, 34 and a half here as they head halfway down the Long Pond straightaway. The question is, though, will we see a yellow flag in these final 35 laps to completely throw all the strategy we're seeing playing out right now, just throw it out the window?
Yeah, that's the one thing that's kind of affecting all these drivers is they're thinking in the back of their mind, yes, I want to play the strategy game. I got to set myself up for that. But if there's a caution, am I at least far enough ahead to where I will be still in position to make any moves if there's a late caution? And you're seeing that with our top five, also close to one another, set up if there's a caution or if there's not. Car that's been making some big moves, who started all the way back in 15th, that's going to be Tom Draling, who's all the way up to 12th and running down Ty Cole, who's stay in conservation mode in front of him.
Drailing, I thought might be.
Oh no! James Love spins out, able to stay off the course, but that was right in our pack of our leaders. That was a scary moment for them.
He just had come to pit road there, where he took the wave around, realizing he couldn't make it on fuel, decides to make his pit stop now, and he was nearly the second caution of the day. He will fall a lap down to the leaders, but that was a near miss. I mean, we were just talking about maybe the fuel strategy getting thrown out the window. We nearly just had it there moments ago.
Yeah, I mean, he was right. He was trying to get back onto the course, but with where the leaders came on to where he was at, he had to stay on the apron instead of getting on course, and his tires touched the course, and due to the elevation change and the banking difference, it just spun the 88, but he was off course, so he's able to continue going forward.
Not only that, but the fact that the apron is flat, and we know for certain that these drivers, I mean, we talked to some drivers last night in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. They said they had their cars set up early on loose. So you're coming off pit road with 4 fresh tires, which are going to be slick with them being cooled down. You've got a loose setup underneath you. There's very little chance that you're going to be able to keep that car from spinning out on a flat apron.
They need a car now pitting and feeling comfortable with those tires. He's someone to watch out for as he just got by Ryan Shrunk, who's in 10th place, and he's going to be making a hard charge here, trying to catch up to our leaders and possibly getting by them. But our lead pack right now, it's kind of starting to split up a little bit with our leader now up to a half a second gap between himself and second place.
Right now, it's looking like we're starting to see the 17 do what he did on the last run, where he starts to lay down lap times anywhere from a tenth to 2/10 faster and open up the distance. However, that time by looked like with the 9 and the 4 of Piscota and Burcroft running nose to tail, they actually closed up a little bit heading into turn 1.
Yeah, that's just the power of, you drafting down the straightaway and working together right there. If you're able to stay in line, it works out a lot better, but a pass was just made for 6th place. It looks like Butcher Benjamin able to make the pass cleanly on Jacob Shorba, not really challenging each other at all, trying to make that as clean as possible for one another.
There's James Love there as well in the 88. Now, his goal right now, if this thing goes green the rest of the way, is he's got to get himself up there, get his lap back the hard way, get around Richard Reagan Jr., and then maybe hope a number of drivers can't make it on fuel and have to come to pit road. But he's lost a lot of time and a lot of track position with having to come to pit road, and also the fact he had to recover that car from a spin over in turn 1.
Yeah, with him being a lap down, it kind of puts him in a bad spot where he really isn't challenging for the lead anymore. Most of these guys are going to be trying to make it to the end, and only a few of them possibly are thinking about pitting. So he's kind of just, he has to get up front, get into the lead, get in front of our leader, get his lap back, and then hope for a caution to come out. But you're seeing some bump drafting going on with second place as Piscota getting a little bit of help from that 4 machine.
We saw on the restart where Ty McWhirter was pushing Joseph Piscota down the front straightaway. So I almost wonder if maybe what that 9 car has in corner speed, maybe he might be lacking a little bit more to the drivers around him in straightaway speed.
It might be there, but mainly it's just because that's the power of the draft. It's so hard to make these passes. We've been seeing it. But if you're able to help the car in front of you get closer and closer to the car that they're trying to catch up to, it helps everyone in the way that they are.
Right now you've got the top 3 all separated by about 2.5 tenths. Then it's a 8/10 gap back to Ty McWhirter, another 6/10 back to Vincent Arthur. But I'm looking at some of these names up here. You got Richard Reagan Jr. leading this race in only his 3rd start. You've got Piscota up here. He's making, I believe this is his 6th start. Same for Vincent Arthur up there in 5th. I mean, Ty McWhirter, we saw him go to victory lane a few weeks ago. Despite his limited starts, he's right now in a playoff spot. Caden Rush, who took a checkered flag back at Sonoma, he was able to get himself into a playoff spot. I mean, we've got some candidates up here who could very easily be moving their way up into the playoff standings and knocking guys like Jensen, Hansen, Drailing that are down near the cut line out of the playoffs.
Yeah, and those drivers you just said that are close to the cut line, they are not a lot of them are having that great of a run right now. They're all kind of starting to drift on back, going back to this about around 7th place. Larry Reed able to make a pass there, and Jensen had some issues as he was down in the apron. That driver was he was trying to avoid, I think that was the 38 machine of Shorba, and he had to dive it real low to get through there.
Not sure if Shorba maybe got the wall off of 3 because he lost momentum, lost the 7th position to Reed, and then 8th to Jensen. But yeah, Jensen was all the way down there on the checkered pattern, all the way down near the inside pit wall to make the pass on the 38.
Yeah, I mean, if I saw him hit the wall after that avoidance, I would think maybe he had a mechanical error on his side of either a monitor or a disconnect with his controller or wheel. Well, just because of how odd that was looking, but that 47 still trucking along and now up to 8th place. Now he's got Larry Reed in front of him at Reed, thinking about making a pass on the 11.
Also looking at the lap times right now, we saw earlier on about 20 laps in, 3 seconds difference from fastest lap of the race to the lap they were currently running. We're starting to enter into that territory again. Looks like Richard Reagan Jr. right now running about, it's like 2.3 seconds slower than his fastest lap. With the pace slowing down like that, does that allow drivers, not necessarily Reagan Jr. since he's out in front, but does it allow drivers behind him to maybe be able to save fuel, or does it not make that much difference since it's such a long racetrack?
Well, I mean, with the fact that everyone is slowing up and the pace has dropped so much, it really helps that 20 machine of Hansen quite a bit. He's still within 20 seconds of our leaders, so if they have any type of issues with fuel-wise or they have to come in the pits, he's still in striking distance.
Hansen came into this race 15th of the 16 playoff drivers. If this works out for him, what a win it would be to solidify himself a spot in the playoffs.
Our leaders, they had gotten close. That 9 machine was thinking about diving his nose in real deep into turn number 1. Not able to get it done, though, but still, they are all on top of one another coming down the long stretch.
Of course, we have to make sure that if this fuel strategy is going to play out, that we can't have a caution, and we nearly just did there as Reagan Jr. almost went around off the nose of Burcroft.
It's just one of those things where the drivers right now are all saying their sorries because they knew how close that was to ruining both our former leader, Reagan, as well as Burcroft. These guys, they're racing so hard, but here comes Arthur now with those little bobbles here and there between those two. 24 car now in position to make a pass here for either 3rd or even get himself up to 2nd.
Hendrick Motorsports looking for their first win overall as a team this season. Piscota for Colleague Racing last night finished runner-up here at Pocono. Now 1 position better as he leads the way here. But we mentioned about the deficit that Richard Reagan Jr. was at, being the race leader, not being able to save fuel. Now the roles have reversed. The 9 who was enjoying the draft is now the one that's creating the draft for those behind him. Yeah,
he was out. The 17 was out there leading for about 18 laps. Looking at how many laps are left, that's just split in half practically, and it's gonna be interesting to see if him being behind the 4 car, is he able to save any fuel, as it looks like the 9 machine of Piscota is just thinking, I gotta go fast and just not care about fuel until I need to just come in last minute.
I'll tell you what, maybe the interval that we saw increase on that first run between Richard Reagan Jr. and the rest of the field might have been the way he's able to approach turn 3, because he closed up what was about a 3-car length gap between himself and Burcroft up to a bumper going through that final corner. He makes up a lot of ground from the center of the corner off.
And coming in 5th place of Ty McWhorter, he's thinking about, he's just right there on the edge of the draft, and he has got it now, pulling himself in to make this a 5-car battle for first. And then behind him, you've got James Love, who is 1 lap down, trying to put himself back on the lead lap.
In the top 5, you've got 3 drivers that took part in last night's Rapid Fire Pizza National Series race. So don't think that those extra 70 laps they turned last night aren't playing into how they are running here today, as Vincent Arthur closing in on this battle for the 2nd position between a couple of blue ovals. Brendan Burcroft trying to hold off Richard Reagan Jr. They're pushing each other down the front straightaway, trying to catch up on that Napa Chevrolet, and they closed up a big bunch going to turn 1.
They're trying to make as many small adjustments to help each other to catch up to that 9 machine. And really, these front guys are not thinking about saving fuel one a bit. Our top three have been just hard charging from the start of our green on this last restart to now, as you're seeing the pass for second being made. Is it going to be clear, though, coming into turn number 2? Last time we saw a pass there, we almost had an accident. 17 car makes it a clean pass, but here comes the 4 machine, not with that crossover, continuing on.
I almost think Richard Reagan Jr. had to try and make that pass, though, because yes, them locking bumpers and pushing down the front straightaway was working well with them closing in on Pocono, but at the same time, it looks like the 17 of Reagan Jr. is just a little bit faster than Burcroft. He doesn't want to spend too long behind the 4 because then that will lose him time to the race leader.
And now we're having a car that just came into the pits. It's going to be Ryan Schrunk coming onto the track right when our leaders pass. That could have been another James Love incident. But James Love, that's another position that he's going to get by, put himself 14th. But now we're starting to see drivers decide to come to the pits, as Jacob Shorba now in the pits.
Shorba might have a little bit of an extended stay. We don't know for certain, but he might have gotten the wall there off of turn 3 when we saw Oscar Jensen have to make an aggressive move down to the inside. We'll see how long the pit stop is going to be here for Shorba. Of course, Shorba runs full time in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, so this would be just to try and get some owner points for the 38 car out of Front Row Motorsports. As 4-tire stop, he's down and away, no damage fixed, it doesn't look like, but for some of these guys like Shorba and Ryan Strunk, the bad news for them is they're probably going to lose a lap with this pit stops.
I mean, I'm just looking at these front guys, and you've got the top 4 right there. Ty McWhorter drops back, he's got 2 lap machines between himself and 4th place. And James Love and Schrunk both are trying to figure out how to get by the leaders respectfully without wrecking anyone. But at the same time, they need to get in front of our leaders to get their lap back.
And there's a battle actually going to be for position there as Schrunk was able to get to the inside of James Love. That's for 14th place for the free pass position should we have a caution. Found it interesting there too that James Love, the car he had to pass was his teammate Vincent Arthur, and Arthur wasn't going to let him by.
Little bit of deking move going on there as you got Richard and Reagan Jr. able to make that pass on the outside on the 9 car, but also was making a woo sound because you got James Love and Schrunk almost wrecking each other. The 24 car now pulling into the pits. We're starting to see cars saying, hey, we got to make the pit stop now. We cannot make it to the end there. It's too long. Tom Draley, someone else that came in that made that last pit stop earlier on, he's coming in. Now we got other machines pulling into the pits. You got Jensen who comes in that 47 machine. So it's time to make your pits now if you feel like you cannot make it to the end.
Only drivers right now that might be able to make it, and that's a very big might, could be Chris Hansen, who, as you mentioned, at the drop of the green, went into fuel conservation mode. Maybe the 21 of Kyle Payne as well. They've been the only 2 that have been running very slow lap times consistently here, but now it's a question with these front runners, with Vincent Arthur coming to pit road. If you're Reagan Jr., Piscota, Burcroft, you don't want that 24 to jump you on those fresh tires and short pitting. Do you come to pit road now, or do you wait a little bit longer?
If you feel like you can make it to the end, you got to stay out there. Chips are down. Might as well do it. But here comes the 4 and the 9, and as well as the 96, leaving the 17 all by him lonesome out there. 2nd,
3rd, and 4th coming to pit road. So 4 of the top 5 before the pit stops began are now on pit lane. And Richard Reagan Jr., we know he's got a fast car. The question is, how much time is he going to lose to these guys that were behind him that are now going to be coming to pit road, having the advantage, at least on their outlap, of fresher tires?
We were talking about Payne. We're talking about Hansen. Here comes Payne this time. He is not feeling comfortable making it to the end. Hansen has already stated that he was going to try to strategize and stay out there. I think Ty Cole also, he didn't verbally announce it, but the way that he's been running, he's also a car to watch out for. But he's got himself about a 12-second gap between Ty Cole and Hansen. So those 2 cars, 4th and 5th, watch out for them. They might be trying to push to the end.
Right, so let's talk about Pocono, the 3 different corners that we have here. Of course, turn 1 is labeled after Trenton Speedway, turn 2 after Indianapolis's banking, and turn 3 with the Milwaukee Mile. As a driver, which of these corners is the best place to try and save some fuel? Because you obviously can't do it on the straightaways.
Turn 3 is probably the best corner to try to save fuel. You kind of are coasting through most of that corner before you really get onto the throttle at the end. So that's the corner you're mainly saving fuel on. But all the corners you are letting off and trying to save fuel the best you can. But these guys all eyeing turn 3. but it's going to be so difficult for them. It's going to be so hard. I'm looking at Hansen. There is a gap between himself and Arthur that's only about 5 seconds, and it's dwindling fast. So
It is.
Arthur is the car that you are really keeping your eyes on as the car that is going to have the lead between Arthur and his teammate Piscota. That's a 2.5 second gap between those two cars. So 24 car, if we continue on with the run we're going, it'll be our leader.
If you look behind him at Piscota, he's also got Brendan Burcroft behind him. So we talk about the draft. 2 cars on the straightaway are going to make a lot more speed than one. So Piscota and Burcroft, if they can stay nose to tail here, they may be able to reel that 24 car in. We could have a 3-car battle for the race lead here eventually when Reagan Jr., Larry Reed, Taylor Butcher, Benjamin, and others have to come to pit road.
I mean, we talk most of the time throughout the seasons about pit road being a place to win and lose positions. Ty McWhorter lost about 2 seconds on the drivers that he was around due to the fact that his entry and exit speed were so much slower than the cars that are around him and ahead of him, as I saw that the 4-car and the 9 machine able to pull away.
These drivers out there sometimes going about 165 to 170 on these straightaways have to get it down to 55 miles per hour before pit road entry's commitment line, very much like the super speedways that we go to. And we've so far not seen anybody get bitten by pit road, but there's still a couple that need to come to pit lane here. And now we've got Chris Hansen in the 20. He has been passed 4 positions. So what he's trying to do right now is at least get a good finish here over what he was running, but doesn't look like this strategy is going to win him the race. He has lost 5th to Arthur, 6th to Piscota, and 4th to Burcroft already.
Yeah, I mean, Hansen was running last in the field before all these different pit strategies were being thrown out. So anything better than him running in 15th, he'll take as a net gain, and he'll accept what he gets. But just based on how everyone else around him, the pace that they're running about almost 4 seconds faster than Hansen. So they're going to catch him, if not in a lap, 2 laps, possibly even 3 laps, and there's still a lot of racing to go on.
There's still 17 laps to go. I'm looking at the interval between Ty Cole and Vincent Arthur now. About a couple corners ago, it was 10.5 seconds. It's now been closed down to 10 seconds. So even if Ty Cole was trying to save fuel to make it the rest of the way, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold off the 24 car. Right now, the drivers we're waiting to come to pit road are the 17 of Richard Reagan Jr., who we're pretty certain cannot make it the rest of the way. Right now, I think what he's hoping for, maybe a caution to save him here and force everybody to still come down pit road. I believe all these drivers still have about 2 sets of tires still waiting for them on pit lane. The 11 of Taylor Butcher Benjamin still out there as well, and the 32 of Larry Reed. Question marks about whether either of them are able to make it on fuel. Ty Cole right now in 4th place, but only about 8 seconds ahead of Vincent Arthur. And the only other driver that has not hit pit road, we already talked about, Chris Hansen, who's pretty much committed to trying to make it the rest of the way on what he's got in the tank.
Larry Reed, that last lap seems that might have grazed the wall, but he's still very close to the 11 machine of Taylor Butchman Benjamin. And these guys, half a second between them too, but almost a little bit less than 10 seconds between themselves and our leader of Richard Reagan Jr. And Richard Reagan Jr. really has been putting on a show, but it sounds like he is preparing it for himself to come to the pits here soon. And he is trying his best out there to save fuel. He's got a gap to do it, though, if he really wants to try, but I don't think he's been saving since the drop of that last restart.
But to your point, the 18 laps that he led there since going back green on that restart, I just don't see how he's able to make up any laps of saving that he threw away there with cutting the draft for other drivers. That's the 21 of Kyle Payne trying to get his lap back here. Right now, only 2 cars a lap down. Payne in the 21, James Love in the 15.
I'm looking back at this potential battle for 5th place. We have Vincent Arthur, Piscota, and Burkhoff right there on each other. They're trying to catch up to Ty Cole, and Ty Cole decided to use his tires and fuel just a little bit that last lap to gain some time, as he was seeing that little battle between, and the gap-wise between himself and the 24 dwindling away.
Big run for Joseph Piscota there down the front straightaway. He'll go to the inside of his teammate in the 24. This could potentially be the battle for the race lead when the top 4 come to pit road, if they come to pit road. And I find it interesting here, too, because We mentioned already about Brendan Burcroft. This is his first start. He started from the pole, but if you look at these two Hendrick Motorsports teammates, they're both making their 6th start of the season, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s amongst the both of them. The only difference really statistically between the two of them, Vincent Arthur has led 13 laps. Piscotto has led none.
And right now, the 9 machine is almost less than a second away from getting up to Ty Cole, Cole, I really thought he was the only one that could make it to the end, but he's been spending so much time on those tires, and he's just losing way too much time on these guys that are on fresher tires that are on 7-lap-old tires, while he's on 31-lap-old tires compared to everyone else.
Nobody up ahead of him, Reagan Jr., Benjamin, or Reed, are running lap times anywhere close to what Ty Cole is running, so I don't see how they, at this point in time, are saving any fuel. I mean, you can see even right here, Richard Reagan Jr. is continuing to try and keep Kyle Payne a lap down. Payne is on fresher tires, 26-lap fresher tires, and cannot make the pass on the race leader.
And Ty Cole, just like that, being passed, and these guys running as hard as they can, and it looks like Reagan Jr. deciding it's time to start pushing it just a little bit more. That last lap a lot faster than his previous one.
Butcher Benjamin in the 2nd position, and he's only got about 7/10 between himself and Larry Reed. Reed backed his pace down just a little bit there that lap, but I just cannot see, even with 12 laps to go, that's a long ways still to go in this race. I don't see how any of these guys are going to be able to, A, make it on fuel, or B, be able to hold off Joseph Piscotto, who has about a 23 lap difference between his tires and theirs.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think what difference is going to happen, but only time could tell, and our leader kind of a little bit worried as Kyle Payne blinking out near our leader. So that's kind of an intense moment to have as you're trying to save tires, but also push as hard as you can to keep the gap that you have on everyone else. I do want to give a quick shout out to the main sponsor for today's events and also for this whole entire series. It's the Soda Guys Inc. guys. They are out there giving their employees and job training to individuals that have development disabilities in the Denver metro area. And these guys, they're amazing. They're trying to give you skills to prepare you for the future and also just to work for them and give you opportunities for any vending machine operating in the Denver metro area.
Great sponsor, and they sponsor a great series too. I mean, there have been so many exciting finishes since we've come on here doing the broadcast for not only the Soda Guys Cup Series, but also the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, and it's looking like we're setting up for another good one here. The question is, when does Richard Reagan Jr. come to pit road? Can Benjamin and Reed be able to make it? If not, I mean, this is the battle we're looking at potentially for the win between Joseph Piscotto, the 9, and Brendan Burcroft, our pole sitter, in the 4.
Yeah, these guys are screaming quick, and they're getting closer and closer to Reed. They're about less than 3 seconds away from getting to Larry Reed and Butcher Benjamin. So these guys, I think they're just in cruise control at the moment. Yes, the 4 machine knows he needs to make the pass on the 9, but he doesn't need to make it now. They need to work together here on this last 10 laps to get up to where these other leaders are that are trying to save fuel and make it to the end.
See the 24, Vincent Arthur, back there. Now, he was ahead of these two when the cycle of pit stops leave for the drivers that had come to pit road cycled out. And you're probably wondering, well, why is he way back there? It's not due to the fact that he has 1 lap older tires than these guys. It's the fact these two have been running nose to tail. I believe with this 2-car tandem that the 24 of Arthur lost the draft.
Yeah, no, they have been working so well together for the 9 and the 4 that it's just no one else can really hold on to and stay with them. It also is that 1 lap. That 1 lap, you might not think that it's that important, but it actually is once you get later on into this part of the race where tires are starting to fade away, and it's more so of how are you sticking with the car that's in front of you. We talked about it yesterday, and the drivers talked about it yesterday. It is hard to make passes once you get later and later into the run. They got the 9 and the 4 need to work together to get by these machines and possibly run down that 17 cars. They are right on the back bumper of 3rd place and also 2nd.
That's Larry Reed just up ahead. Taylor Butcher Benjamin right in front of them. The good news for Piscotto and Burcroft is doesn't look like the guys ahead of them are able to hold it right down in the bottom. They are. So that's going to make their task a lot easier when they approach them in the corners. Easily both of them get by the 11 of Taylor Butcher Benjamin. Now, to your point, with that 4 car staying behind the 9, the two of them working together is allowing them not only to make these passes, but reel in Richard Reagan Jr. But, we're of the assumption Richard Reagan Jr. can't make it the rest of the way. How long do you wait if you're Burcroft to try and make the move here? I mean, you can't wait too long, maybe even not till the final lap. When you've got momentum on the 9, you've got to take it, I would think.
Well, looking at the pace that we're seeing from the 9 and the 4 compared to the 17, they should be able to catch him in the next about 6 laps or so. 6 to possibly 5 laps. Once they catch him, make that pass, then they start battling with one another. Until they make a pass by that 17 car, there will not be any real passes going on for that supposed lead lap. For that lead position.
A couple of guys that tried to make it on fuel. Right now, Ty Cole is running in the 8th position, but he's about 3 laps away from dropping down to 11th. Tom Draling, Oscar Jensen, Jacob Shorba all back there on fresher tires within striking vicinity. Chris Hansen was running 15th and is right now in the 13th position, but that's Kyle Payne right behind him, who just got around Richard Reagan Jr. a few laps ago to get back in the lead lap. So right now, Ty Cole looks like he may gain a couple of spots based off of this strategy to make it the rest of the way. Chris Hansen may be lucky if he makes a net gain of 1 spot, depending on if James Love can make up 16 seconds on him in these final 7 laps.
Yeah, James Love is he's got 10 lap newer tires, but they're both on pretty old tires. It's got to be close between the two, but I think James Love, he might get to the back bumper of Hansen, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make the pass.
Less than 10 seconds now between Richard Reagan Jr. and this 2-car tandem in second place. Actually make it 3 cars now as you add the 88 of James Love into it. Looks like they may have actually just been passing him.
Yeah, he's got way too old of tires. His pace is way too slow to stay with these 2 drivers. The only cars that really can stick with the 9 and the 4 at the moment, it might be Kyle Payne, but we saw that he drifted back. Just based off of the tires that everyone else is on. These 2 are on some of the fresher tires out here.
Definitely are, and they continue to cut it down. That last lap, they cut it down by 2 seconds. As they continue to close in, it's only 8.5 seconds difference now between them and Richard Reagan Jr. And
boy, Ty Cole just came into the pits. James Love actually, he's fading in and out, but he is a dangerous part to fade in and out while he was around cars. But Ty Cole finally came to the pits, one of those drivers we thought could make it to the end. Yeah, maybe not. And now it's up to Hansen to see if he can make it. If Hansen comes to the pits, I am nervous for the other drivers that are still out here.
Richard Reagan Jr., we pretty much assume he can't make it the rest of the way. I think right now he's just waiting until that thing maybe runs out of fuel, hoping for a caution to maybe save him here in these final 5 laps, as he has just crossed the line to complete lap 75. You can see a long ways back, about maybe 3/4 of the straightaway before you can barely see the blue and yellow Napa logo looming in the distance of Joseph Piscotta. So he's got some room to work with, however, not really the few amount of laps that he needs.
Looking at the lap times that our 17 car and the 9 and the 4 made, they are 1 second each lap gaining on them. 7 seconds between the 2 drivers, and we've only got 5 laps left in this race. The math does not show that they can catch up to the 17 at the moment. Well, here's the thing. It's all about fuel. And I think Reagan Jr. just needed to get a lap to possibly a lap and a half saved. That is a lot of miles to save up for fuel. But those couple of laps that he was behind drivers, maybe he was able to save there.
Maybe that, and also with the fact he had a huge gap. All these other drivers lost time to him coming to pit road. Maybe when they pitted, he was starting to save some fuel, perhaps. Who knows? I haven't really seen his pace back down enough to give an indication that he has been saving fuel. But to your point, with him being behind the lap cars, maybe he backed his pace down just a little bit to save just a little bit of fuel there. But boy, this is going to be interesting. Really, that 17 car is the one that's going to determine his own destiny as to whether he's going to victory lane or not, whether it be in the fact of saving fuel or in the fact if he can keep the interval, as you said, just a little bit between himself and that 9 car with about 3.5 laps to go.
Piscotta was in our top 3 last night. He's looking to get the victory. He was kind of shocked that he did so well last night. I bet he's kind of shocked that he's doing well tonight, but that 9 car really was set up in a prime position. But can he get there in time? we're going to be 3 laps away. 6 seconds difference when they cross the line there. There's just not enough time for them to catch them on pace. He's 17, needs to run out of fuel.
That car on pit road, that's the 11 of Taylor Butcher Benjamin pitting with 3 laps to go. And you saw right there, Piscota and Burcroft having to get around the slower machine of, I believe that might have been Ty Cole. That broke the two of them up. I mean, the ground they've been gaining is when they've been in that close 2-car tandem. Now they're separated by about 3-4 car lengths. That's going to hurt them in their attempt to run down the 17 as well.
I mean, the 17 car is trying everything he can. We're watching to see if he ever drops in speed. That just hurts him too much. But, I mean, coming around the corner, coming to 2 laps to go here around turn number 3, the 17 car looking very confident. When he crosses the line himself, there'll be about 4.5-second difference. The other cars need to gain almost 2 seconds a lap at this point.
You think he can project it to maybe run out of fuel out of 3 and have enough momentum of the car to get all the way down this long straightaway to the start-finish line, perhaps?
If he runs out in 3, it is going to be so close. I mean, that straightaway is so long. He would probably need about 4 to 5 seconds just to get that done. But it's going to be, I mean, we're coming to the white flag once it crosses the line. Then the race is official. If there's a caution after that, the race ends at that point. But any late caution could affect everything that we're talking about now. And man, this 17 car, he is trying to give as much space, but he's trying to tell the 34 car to go low and does so there. Coming around turn 3, does the 17 car have enough gas?
The one guy that we kind of picked through the entire field to maybe not make it on fuel, just in the fact that he was leading so many laps in the early portion of this last green flag run, might be able to pull it off. Richard Reagan Jr., this is only his 3rd start. He only has 1 career top 10, and that was a finish inside of the top 5. He's had 72 career laps led. He's going to be adding to that here today for sure. The question is, though, can he be leading at the checkered flag? He's got 2 more corners, 2 more long straightaways to go, and you can see the gap back to Piscota and Burcroft.
Yeah, it is less than 3.5 seconds between 1st and 2nd, but it's a big enough gap if the 17 car has enough fuel. He is looking pretty solid at the moment. When he crosses the line, it's going to be 45 laps that he ran with fuel, with these tires, and it really looked like he might have been too far out to make this move. But coming into 3, he is looking pretty swell as he's got 3-second gap, a little bit less than 3 seconds coming around the line.
I would have dumped the clutch right there in 3 because he would have enough then to make it to the end. What an amazing job tonight by Richard Reagan Jr. He makes it on maybe fumes to take the checkered flag tonight in the Pocono Mountains.
It was a 1-stopper for the 17 car. It came up a little bit earlier than we thought it was going to be, but he got the job done in that 17 machine.
And may have just clinched himself a spot in the playoffs with this performance here tonight. His teammate finished 2nd last week at Chicagoland. He takes the checkers here this evening. That's the first checkered flag for the Roush Fenway organization, and he was the only guy up here inside of the top 10 that did not come to pit road during that last green flag run.
Chris Hansen, another driver we were questioning, could he make it to the end? He did so. That 20 machine was able to get it done, getting that net gain of 1 position, finishing 14th.
Bit of an issue for the 32 of Larry Reed in the closing stages as he finished in 15th. Not sure what happened to him. And I think the 17 may be out of fuel. Vincent Arthur's going to be the good neighbor and push him to victory lane.
Yeah, he just came on the radio, hey, can anyone push me to the line? And the 24 said, oh, I got you. What a great run.
Victory lane. He doesn't have enough fuel to do burnouts, I don't think.
No, just get him back to pit stall possibly, or just get to the line for some photos, because that 17 car, it was a long run for him. He had to try to save fuel the best that he could. Got it done. If he just went 1 more lap, that 17 car was in a lot of trouble.
This makes a very important scenario as far as the playoffs are concerned, because Richard Reagan Jr. was outside of the cutoff line coming to this race. With him going to victory lane, it's going to be pretty close between Chris Hansen and Oscar Jensen as to which one's going to get knocked out of the playoff format. And, well, maybe he clutched a little bit there with the 24 pushing him. He's got a little bit of fuel to do some burnouts here on the front straightaway.
I mean, he's trying to do burnouts at the same time. Those are just fumes coming out as the 17 car finally is out of fuel there. And what a great run.
A little burnout's better than no burnout at all.
Exactly. You could have a little bit of fun.
Let's look at these full finisher results here as Richard Reagan Jr., who I think started this race from third place, never fell outside of the top three all day, and undoubtedly is going to get the bonus point as well for most laps led. Joseph Piscota, back-to-back nights of finishing second here at Pocono, ahead of pole sitter Brendan Burcroft. Great run for him in his debut here in the Soda Guys Cup Series. Vincent Arthur will finish in fourth, followed by Ty McWhirter. Tom Drayling brings it home sixth, Oscar Jensen in seventh, Jacob Shorba, Ryan Strunk, and Taylor Butcher Benjamin, who had to come to pit road with about 3 laps to go, will finish in 10th. The rest of your finisher results here, Kyle Payne and Ty Cole finished on the lead lap, 11th and 12th. Larry Reed, Chris Hansen, James Love all finished a lap down. The only driver that finished this race behind the wall was Chad Gunisman after an early issue out of turn 2, only driver to DNF in the 16th position.
It's just a great run on everyone's part as we're starting to get all the drivers ready for interviews. Seth, I'll be handing the interviews off to you. I'll be right back.
All right, so let's kick things off here with third place finisher, the 4 of Brendan Burcroft in his debut race. And I mean, Brendan, not only do you go out, lay down the fastest lap for qualifying, start your first race from the pole, you bring it home in third place here today. Obviously, you really liked the way Pocono was. What was it you enjoyed about it?
Honestly, I was just having a really great time out there. I was working with some of my friends, and we were really trying to work to get us 3 up front. We worked together all through the pits and through, all 3 turns. We none of us really liked Pocono, so we were trying our best to make up a little bit for driver.
Saw the restarts were really crazy, at least in the second half of the race, especially drivers going 3 wide and 4 wide. A lot of drivers with different braking zones, especially going into turn 3. How difficult was it to maneuver through stuff like that?
Honestly, it was, I know for most of that race at that point, after halfway, when we got the big restart, I was just committed to pushing Joe as hard as I could. So me and Joe, I would just push him down the straightaway, hoping he could find something. And I was telling him earlier, I was looking more at the cones than I was looking at the track because I was just trying to make sure I didn't run into anybody. I had to brake so early.
We saw you and the 9 actually 2-car tandeming down the straightaways, locking bumpers, trying to reel in the 17. Were the 2 of you of the mentality that you were basically battling for the win? The 17 couldn't make it on fuel?
Honestly, we were so confident. We thought we had a great call. We thought we had jumped them pitting early, so we thought we had really nailed it there. That's why we were just debriefing. And honestly, we couldn't have called anything different to beat him. We weren't going to save that much gas. We clearly didn't have as much as he did, so we just had to try something different. It almost worked.
I mean, what a tremendous way to make your debut here in the Soda Guys Cup Series. From the pole, finishing in third place, you led some laps as well, so a tremendous run for you here, and we look forward to seeing what you bring to the table in future races. But for now, we're going to let you do some shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Soda Guys, Veterans of Foreign Wars, which is on my car, Shorba's Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and a Beating Love Memorial Urns.
All right, that's Brendan Burcroft. He brings it home third place here today at the Tricky Triangle. Congrats on a great run. Look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you, guys. It was fun.
And of course, that is the first time, I believe, in the last 6 weeks, if I'm correct, that the 4-car finishes up inside of the top 5. New driver Brendan Burcroft putting it up there on the podium. Let's get our second place finisher in here, Hendrick Motorsports driver Joseph Piscota. And Joseph, second straight night we get to talk to you. You finished second last night in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. You finished second place here this evening in the Soda Guys Cup Series. Was there anything from last night you were able to apply today that gave you the good run here today at Pocono?
I would probably say tire wear. I think we were better tonight, honestly, at saving tires than we were last night. But we were more tight last night. We were loose, so that was a little bit of a change. But we got her loosened up, and we were kind of moving there at the end. But we really gave it a good effort, and I'm proud of the finish second. But we tried there, and we just came a little bit short, I guess.
Yeah, we up here in the booth were kind of questioning whether the 17 could make it on fuel since he had led a good portion of that first half of the last green flag run. You and the 4 working together were starting to close in on him. Did you think, though, when you made the pass on the 24, that was the pass right there for the lead, eventually for the win? Were you shocked the 17 was able to make it on fuel?
Yeah, I have no idea how he did that. I mean, that's just like I don't. Almost seemed like he had like an extra tank of gas. I don't know how. We were all kind of in the same boat, fuel wise. I knew that, and I saw my teammate Vincent pit, and so I pit, and thank goodness I gotta congratulate Brendan Burcroft there for finishing P3. He really pushed me and helped me. So when I thought I passed Vincent there, I almost thought I had it there. So I don't know how the 17 did. I mean, props to him that he did, but that's hard to do.
Absolutely. I mean, we look ahead to next week. It's going to be another track that's going to play very similar, I think, to what we saw here today. Long straightaways, the draft come into play, more than likely, maybe fuel come into play as well at Indianapolis. I mean, is there anything based on there's a difference of configuration, but some similarities from today's race that maybe you can apply to next week as well?
Yeah, I think the high straightaway speed and the flat corners will be pretty good. I mean, I felt really solid about the car. We fired off really tight and we lost a lot of ground, but we kept working on it and trying to keep up with the track. And we did a really good job at that. I think that final run, even I think if we had a green white checker, we could have done something because we were really going really well with those adjustments. So I think just kind of playing it like it is with the flatness and the high straightaway speed, we'll be all right.
Well, your numbers here at Pocono this weekend look pretty doggone good. Back-to-back second place finishes, and we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, I got to thank Soda Guys first of all, veterans of foreign war, Shorebird Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Memorial Urns, and you guys for doing a great job on the broadcast. So thanks to all of them.
As Joseph Biscotta, he puts his Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet second here tonight. Great run for you. We look forward to talking next week at Indy.
Yeah, hopefully. I appreciate it, guys.
And let's now go down to Victory Lane, where I'm certain that his crew had to push his car to Victory Lane with him running out of fuel to be able to do that little burnout on the front straightaway. Richard Reagan Jr. in only his third start of the season. And Richard, I mean, we talked to some of the drivers just a moment ago. They are wondering, we up here in the booth are wondering, solve the mystery for us. How did you have enough fuel to make it there to the end?
I started saving early. About I started saving about 4 laps before they all pit, by lifting a little bit earlier, and then I started clutching it. And then when they pit, I really started to start saving. And I knew it was gonna be tight on fuel just because of how the caution fell, and we were just outside the window. So basically, as soon as we came off pit road, I was saving. So
Well, obviously, you did a tremendous job of doing that. I mean, we were up here scratching our heads trying to figure out how you were able to be out in front for about the first half of that last green flag run and still have the fuel to be able to make it. But we also saw the intervals start closing in between you and the 9 and the 4 working together. At any point, did you kind of start to get worried they might be on your back bumper on that final lap?
yeah, as soon as they got past Larry, they really started closing in. Larry was trying to make it as well. And with about 4 to go, I was like, man, they're really gonna get me. But I had just that extra little bit in the tank where I could just push that little bit more, and I think we got the 2-second lead. So all worked out in the end.
Richard, with having this win in the bank now, this moves you up out of the below the cutoff line up into the playoffs. So how does that change your mentality going forward to other tracks like Indianapolis, Kentucky, New Hampshire on the horizon?
We're just gonna keep digging like we did tonight. I like the short tracks. This car is very fast. It was good in turn 2, which is similar to Indy. So we're gonna probably take this car and use it as the baseline for Indy, and probably show some good speed over there from Legacy Esports. Boyd Hogan will be back next week, I'm pretty sure. So me and him will have a good battle, as long as along with the other guys in the league. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, the first win of the season for Roush Fenway Racing comes courtesy of Richard Reagan Jr. And Richard, we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, I got to thank the league sponsors, Soda Guys, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Shorebirds Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, Abiding Love Memorial Urns. And then I got to thank my sponsors, Butt Kicker, Neonism. You need a paint, go to facebook.com/neonism. Abruzzi Racewear, Craftsman, Shell, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Susan G. Coleman, and Athlete Booker.
Richard Reagan Jr. celebrating in Victory Lane here tonight at Pocono. Go and continue to enjoy your win. A tremendous job here today.
Thanks.
I believe Sam is back here, and I mean, Sam, I mean, we've seen so many different Pocono races, but we have not seen a fuel strategy type race. This is the first time we've seen the Tricky Triangle actually come down to fuel strategy, and I just still can't wrap my head around the fact he said that he was saving about 4 laps before they came to pit road, but he was still out in front leading, so that car was wicked fast.
Well, at the time that we started seeing cars coming in the pits, he actually had dropped into third and second place. So he was in that spot to start conserving a little bit there. So the draft was helping a little bit there, as well as letting off, like he said. It's just insane to think that the 17 car was able to go 44 laps. I did throw out the possible chance of cars going about 45 laps. That's when we saw the car run out of fuel. So I guess my markers were kind of good today, but man, that was some intense saving for the 17 car. Even though he led he was up front for 18 of those laps, even more than that, just with not a lot of help during that last run.
Your markers were spot on, and it begs the question with Reagan Jr. being able to do what he did. Does it surprise you that there weren't others up there at the front that tried following the same strategy?
I think it was more so of, hey, we got to try something different. The 17 car is too fast for us to stay on the same strategy. We got to try something different. Possibly we can do it better. Like we heard the 9 car saying, they just had to try to do something different to compare it to the 17. It just didn't work out this time around.
I'll tell you what, our last few weeks, we have seen new names pop up into the playoffs with their trips to victory lane. Drivers like, my mind just went blank. The 00, we saw him go to victory lane at Sonoma. We had Ty McWhirter go to victory lane back, I believe that was at Kansas. And now we've got Richard Reagan Jr. going to victory lane here tonight. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the regular season. It's getting a little bit more congested for playoff positions, and you kind of get the feeling we're going to keep seeing more and more of this with guys like Vincent Arthur, Piscota, Tom Drayling finishing up there inside the top 10 week after week.
Yeah, you just have a sense that one of these days that the Hendrick guys are just going to break that barrier and finally get their wins, because they have been running up there in the top 10, top 5 week after week, and we're just expecting them at some point to finally get that win that they will get at some point during the season.
Well, next week, we're going to be going for a Indianapolis doubleheader. The Rapid Fire Pizza National Series will be at the road course configuration of Indy. The Cup drivers in the Sodakai Cup Series, they will be at the Speedway configuration. That's going to be interesting to see how these drivers do. I mean, we may see some drivers from one series be in the other series and have to tackle both configurations of Indianapolis, but Indianapolis is another of the kind of tracks that can play into fuel strategy, also into tire strategy. We could see another driver pop their name up there into victory lane, into a playoff spot also.
Yeah, I mean, Indy is kind of similar to the way that Pocono runs. Yes, the configurations are so different, but it turns into a fuel mileage run, as well as the draft is something very important for these drivers. So expecting to see pretty similar things that we saw today into next week.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for our coverage here this evening from Pocono. Richard Reagan Jr. works some fuel strategy magic to take his first checkered flag of the season here in the Soda Guys Cup Series. Sam, as always, appreciate you joining me in the booth tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's broadcast. We'll see you next week at Indianapolis for the race weekend for both the Rapid Fire Pizza Grand National Series and the Soda Guys Cup Series. But for Sam Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Have a great night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.